Alright, let's go through the next game against Sophia here. So in this first game, we're playing juggler versus juggler. As usual, I like to go with the dealet second. Very safe, have gospels. And then here, my opponent picks up the Luna, so I want to pick less of my magic damage dealers, and immediately go for this Yusuke, which is really good at physical damage. So here, my opponent picks up the Tiaras, leaving me with a Claret here, or with Rachel. So deciding between which one I want to take, Claret actually doesn't do that much if I'm going to be hitting to the juggler here. But Claret can serve as a good way of preventing my opponent from moving outside of guard range. So that's why I pick up the Claret over the Rachel here. Otherwise, Rachel could be good, but not against Luna. Then finally, last pick the Rachel here anyways, just because I think that Rachel will probably be more of a threat than Weiler. Even if I get a 1-for-1 trade, if I can get this Rachel traded for something like this Angelina, that would be fine with me. Let us all show the skills here. So this Angelina have 3C, Tidal Surge, and Ram, so it could be looking to trade with Ragnarok and the Angels. And then this Luna is just going to use the skill plus Wind Spiral, since nobody here really needs the plus mobility. Though he could use it on his juggler. The artists here have a shield against the Yusuke. And I have some standard skills on this side, have a Gospel here, and a Gospel over there. For everyone on the team that needs it. So as you can see here, on the first turn, neither of us used the Triton on juggler. That's because we know everyone is outside of range, and we don't need to use the guard on our first turn. Instead, we can save this until some other turns when we're actually going to be in each other's danger zones. So now we're using our Tritons, moving slightly forward. So here I'm still positioning myself to be outside of Angelina's 3C range. So if this Angelina wants to use her 3C, she can only hit 2 units and not act again. So again, on the Yusuke, I'm delaying transform for this one turn, just because I don't think we will be engaging quite soon here. So I'm moving up here, and then here, I position this Claret right here, where she can threaten to attack the Angelina or anyone inside in this range. So here, my opponent Sophia last moves to the Tiaras, so I can safely push this dealet forward. Because now I can threaten to use the juggler 3C at the start of next turn, and lock down this juggler, forcing him to use this juggler to jump, or her. So there's a reply of shield, and then start of turn, we're just going to jump this juggler over here and lock down the guard. So this Claret here is still looking to threaten everyone here that is not being guarded, because we're disabling guard. Now this juggler, I'm forcing them to jump to protect one of these two units, because this TRS is taking up the other spots where you can safely guard your entire team here. So Sofia decides to use the jump to protect the Angelina, which leaves the Listel here outside of guard range. So here is my first mistakes with Claret. With this Claret, I could have actually attacked on this water tile. If I did that, then the Angelina would not have a really good 3C positioning. So since I'm already in a range where my opponent can 3C, I just push up this Rachel here. All because of this one mistake with this Claret. So here Angelina pushes those two away, leaving the Claret and Rachel unguarded. And decides to trade off the Angelina instead of using the Luna to attack the Rachel over there. Which I think is fine, since I have this Deedlit that they can't really touch anyways, and they want to keep the Luna alive just to protect their team. Since one of them will have to be traded against the Rachel anyways, I think that was the right move. So I have to punch the Angelina here with his Yusuke. So here, my opponent's Beast Shock is ready, my Beast Shock is ready. We're really not sure who can kill each other here. So instead of going for the Beast Shock, my opponent goes for the reapplying of shield. That gives me an action to use the Sea of Miracles here, that full heals the juggler here, while also reducing the cooldown of 3C on Yusuke, so now it's ready to punch again. And then might as well go for this attack, dispel one buff on the juggler, which didn't really matter, didn't really dispel anything relevant. And now my opponent safely blocks off the Beast Shock positioning. I go for the Beast Shock here anyways, since I have a Beast Shock plus a Yusuke 3C ready here. The juggler here heals up 20% of his health thanks to this random Tenyo buff, restore 20% of units' health. So, as you can see here with this Yusuke punch, just barely was able to not kill the opponent's juggler here. So, kind of unfortunate. And the opponent here, with the TRS locked down, just goes for the heal on the juggler. He could have also used the Beast Shock right here. So instead of attacking here, I could have also attacked over here to be safe. But I was being greedy, moving here. So now, use the faction buff for both Yusuke and also for Deedlit. Juggler takes a punch. Can I attack here? Heal it, just to heal up the juggler with her weapon. Now my opponent goes for the Beast Shock, was unable to kill just barely. But since I still have this action left with Juggler, that Juggler just dies at the start of Sofia's turn. So me noticing this Juggler does not have Magic Guard anymore, I go for the 3 move, heal it, and then ram into this Tiaras here. Also was unable to kill, even though the Tiaras was outside of the Luna range, but since she is stuck with water on all sides, she cannot actually get out of here. So luckily the Tiaras goes down. I was able to transform here again. And because of unicorns, the Steela could also escape. I wasn't sure if this Luna was on the Cursed Lands or not, but over several attacks, she never applied the heal block in silence. So here, instead of attacking to the Juggler, I attack the Luna to kill off her Holy Pegasus to reduce her incoming damage. Also dispelled Luna's Wind Spiral, so Luna was kind of forced to faction buff here. And with Yusuke's 3C back up, I was able to punch the Juggler and heal block him. So Sofia concedes the first game here. In the second game, noticing that my opponent have some more flyers than usual, we bring in Illustrial, which is actually on her second best map, and also the Luna against all these magic damage dealers. And again, we see the Juggler vs. Juggler. This time they also open with Deal It First, and me as well. And here we have the Claret pickup after banning the Luna. When they ban my Luna, I also ban out their magic damage dealers. And then here I go for the Yusuke, which can faction buff for my Deal It. Here I just give them the Liana here, banning out Tiaras and Weiler. 2 combat healers I don't really want to deal with on a single target, but Liana I think I'm fine with. So here again I get the Claret pick, and then I can have choice of healer as the last pick, and they give me the Liana here. So here my opponent have 3 Gospels, one on Rachel, Deal It, and on Liana. Well, I didn't bring the Gospel here, instead going for Simmons Skyarchers, just so I can sacrifice it whenever I need to enrage Yusuke. So I only have 1 Gospel here. But I have 2 units that kind of wants the Gospel, the Juggler, and also the Claret here. So here we're kind of both avoiding each other's danger zones. So with Claret, I didn't even bother to use Triton on first turn, again, because I'm pushing up the Sky Archer to block for the rest of my team up over here. And my opponent is also avoiding my Claret's attack range. Now on turn 2, we're going forward with this Triton. Also just pushing up here, acting against some kind of force too with this Claret, covering most of the map. So I notice here that, this Liana has already acted, this Struggler stood in place, and this Claret is outside of guard range. So it's like they're offering me this Claret versus Claret trade. Now since I'm only on 1 Gospel here and my opponent has 3, their Claret is better than mine, so I go for this trade. Which means I don't actually have to sacrifice the Sky Archer anymore and keep it for later. So we could go for this trade, and this enrages the Yusuke. Now we're just pushing slightly forward here. And kind of throughout the match you can see my opponent reapplying Gospel over and over onto the Juggler here, since they're all 2-turn Gospels, but I have a 3-turn Gospel. So I don't need to use Act again as much as my opponent. Here I can Gospel again, and this is a Teddy Bear Deedlit with 3-turn Gospel. So here I can just push up the Yusuke here, the Deedlit cannot use her Act again. This Rachel is also not in range. So we're fine here, kind of threatening to push in. And then the Deedlit moves over here, giving me a pretty good jump position. I take it, jump over here, again, locking the Struggler away from his team, or her team. So now if this Struggler wants to jump, if they want to protect the whole team, well they can't. If they want to protect these two from the Yusuke that is threatening to punch everyone, they have to jump over here, which leaves the Liana open. So instead, Rachel goes just for a Scythe onto my Juggler, kind of threatening to kill my Juggler here. So I go for the Sea of Miracles and attack. I wasn't sure how much damage this would do, but I only killed the unicorns. Yeah, since this Deedlit here lost her faction buff right before attacking, so really didn't have any sort of buffs. Might have dealt more damage to this Liana, actually looking at these stats here. But it does heal up my Juggler pretty nicely. So here, the opponent have only 1 turn on Gospel here. If this Juggler moves, I can punch with Yusuke and heal block. That means they will be heal block for 2 turns. So instead of doing that, I use Gospel here. Again, putting another turn where I can attack anyone. Now here's where I make another mistake, attacking with this Yusuke here. For some reason, I thought I can use the Yusuke to punch, use Act again on Liana, and use her attack skill again. But somewhere in my mind that got jumbled up, where I had to use the Deedlit Sea of Miracles before I attacked with Yusuke, so I couldn't punch, Act again, and use Sea of Miracles to reduce the cooldown this time. So this Yusuke just gets stuck here after attacking. If I just attacked back here, then at least my Juggler would not be also locked down together with this Yusuke. So now I was planning to use Act again, but I can't. Just go for a heal. And the Yusuke goes down to the Speed Shock. So my juggler still can't move. And I'm just using Gospel outside of Rachel's range. Juggler takes a big hit. Still alive. And I go for this act again on the D-Lit. So they also act again. I was planning to kill the juggler with my 2 attacks, the Beast Shock plus the D-Lit attack. But since they also act again, they can try to heal up this juggler by attacking, either killing my juggler and healing up, or doing damage to this D-Lit here. So they go for the damaging D-Lit plan, which is just Arcane Blast, excluding my juggler out of there. And I go for this attack here, on Trigger Storms, but thankfully I get the kill here anyways. Start of turn, Rachel Scythe finish us off the juggler. Now looking at where this Liana can move, I just move all these units to the fog and block this Liana out of it. So it all works out. Also, at the very end here, this is also a mistake. I had the Sky Archers ready. I could also summon Sky Archers right here, stand Liana here, and then go for the D-Lit attack over here. That leaves this Rachel with no ranged targets. Next turn, the fog covers up this entire line and dies in the fog. It's okay, game's over, they concede.